Well, a warm April welcome to everybody here in Hawkeye Nation. April 7th, and we are talking Iowa men's basketball. We haven't done that in a while. I wish we were talking about an Iowa national championship bid tonight. Of course, Houston and Florida will be doing battle here in just a couple of hours for the college basketball national crown, not the crown that Nebraska won over the weekend. We'll probably get to that at some point if it if it's worth discussing. So, folks, we got a fun show in store for you. If you're new to the show, this is From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I'm your host, Corey Bratta here. We, of course, go live all year round. We're known for our post-game coverage with Coach Gary Close, Coach Don Patterson, and for women's hoops, women's basketball, I should say, Kasheen Alexander. But we also go live throughout the offseason, bringing you recruiting coverage, shows like these, Hawkeye Hangout, where we involve you, the listener, the caller, the fan, and we're going to do that here this evening. But also, we've got a couple of awesome guests lined up. One being Coach Close, who has been a part of the show for the better part of 3 years, but a great under the leadership of Dr. Tom Davis and Gary, and that is one Acie Earl, who had his cup of coffee in the NBA and with the Boston Celtics, knows a little bit about post play and about rebounding. One of Iowa's recent ads via the transfer portal from the Drake Bulldogs is Cam. Let's see if I can get it pronounced correct. Cam Manyao. All right, we'll see if I see how close that is. You got to learn how to say that here for the next couple of years. And I think, first of all, I'm curious to ask Acie if he sees any similarities in his game. I don't know how much he's actually watched of Cam Manyao. But anyways, we're going to get to all that. We're also going to talk about the transfer portal, most certainly, because Iowa has added, 5 guys, if my count is correct, from the Drake Bulldogs. But they've swung and missed on some other people. And there is a faction of the fan base that's getting a little frustrated here in the first few weeks of the McCollum era. I am not one of those fans. I'm very optimistic still, and I'm very patient. And I think it's fair to say I knew what this team, what this program, this institution was getting itself into when it let a 15-year head coach go with an NIL, with a collective and an NIL base that maybe isn't as strong as some people would have liked. So anyways, all that being said, we're going to look at who Iowa's in on in the portal, who Iowa's missed on, but more importantly, who Iowa has maybe an inside track to. There's a couple of guys Iowa has had reported Zoom calls here over the last 24 hours with a lot of mid-major kids, but I do think people are maybe dismissing the Drake guys a little early. They bring a winning culture and defense, tenacity, and of course they've got a background with one Ben McCollum. So we're going to talk about all that here coming up. I want to welcome in my good friend Kyle Spence, who's with us here this afternoon. Kyle, good to see you. I'm glad we're here talking about Iowa basketball on a positive note, not I don't know. I guess we could be recapping an Iowa NIT loss or a crown bid. Had they not fired Fran McCaffrey, they would have likely been playing in the crown, assuming they had enough players. Nebraska won that game yesterday, and they're crown champions. I saw a stat real quick, Kyle. I saw a stat that they're the only team in Division I history to miss their conference tournament, but then win a postseason tournament and win their early season in the same year. I've never heard of anything like it. And it was the inaugural crown championship down in Vegas. So anyways, appreciate you being here. We're going to have a fun time over the next hour. And as we welcome in Coach Close and Acie Earl here in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's an interesting time of year and just the era that we're starting to dip our toes into now with stats like that with Nebraska is just wild. You're going to have teams, and it'll be interesting in all fairness to see like, hey, does it do anything for them going into next year? You know, coaches always talk about the extra bowl prep, the extra reps that they get with postseason play, whether the team's good or not. So it'll be interesting to see if that carries over at all into next year, if it's just irrelevant with the era of the portal. Obviously, Price Sanford joining the Cornhuskers next year. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But yeah, no, it's an interesting time of year. You know, throughout the season, I like this a lot better now because, you know, as we're moving through the season, we've got results to talk about. And unfortunately, they lost, 12 out of 16 games. So we come on here and, I mean, what are you going to say? You got to be a little bit hard on a team that can't win games in conference play. And, at this point in the season, it's kind of, for me at least, I feel it's time to kind of let the frustration go and be a little bit more optimistic, talk about some possibilities. I've got some stuff here that I'm sure we can touch on here as far as like roster spots and where they're at in terms of open scholarships compared to the rest of the Big Ten. So it is that time of year. All the rumors are flying around. We've participated in some and not others, but it's a fascinating time of year. Roster building is in the new era of GMs in college basketball, and fans trying to put together super teams with their NIL budgets is fun to talk about.
Let me just say this before we're going to welcome in our good friend Tony. We're also got Doug on hold. We've got James in the queue. And as I said here, folks, in hour 2, we're going to be welcoming in Acie Earl and Coach Gary Close in lead up to the national championship game. I'm sure I know I will ask both of those guys, basketball minds, about the matchup between the 2 1 seeds tonight, Florida and Houston. But let me just say this, cat out of the bag, I guess, at the very start. I do think this coming year, for anybody that thinks I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, year 1 under Coach McCollum, I believe will be an up and down year. I think there will be struggles. I think they will, if they make the tournament, it's going to be close. And it's far too early for me to even say that. But part of the reason I'm not panicking about the early lack of success nationally is because of the fact that the kids he's gotten, that he's moved over from Drake. And if people, I know some people don't like holistically, they don't like the fact that Iowa's picked over the Drake roster, but it sort of is what it is nowadays. I mean, it's happening everywhere.
Go look at every program that's taken someone's head coach. It's every single, they've all brought 3, 4, 5, 6 players.
Yeah. And so I guess the thing I look at is this guy, Ben, we're talking about Ben McCollum. He prides himself on good fundamental defensive play, on rebounding, on good point guard play. And right now, I think they have a good foundation on those 3 fronts. They have a very good point guard in Bennett Sturts who can score, who can dish, who can operate. You've got a core that proved itself defensively, even against high major competition. Now, I do think the physicality of the Big Ten, the game after game, week after week onslaught of Big Ten opponents is totally different than what Drake experienced non-conference to Missouri Valley Conference play to tournament play. But it is fair to bring that up, that they did go up against high major competition. And some of the guys Iowa brought over performed very well, even offensively, against the likes of Missouri and Texas Tech, etc. But I think they've got a good foundation there, and defensively, they are just going to be so much more disciplined than any of us are used to. And to be good to great, they need to add a lot. And I don't know that it's reasonable to expect them to add a lot and to get to that point in year 1. But I will say, if this were football, and we were talking about a new head coach of Iowa football, adding a bunch of guys from the MAC, adding a bunch of guys from the WAC, adding a bunch of guys from even the AAC, it would be a totally different conversation. That's not what this is. And college basketball is not football. And we've seen a lot of programs. Iowa State's a good example. You could argue they've picked off maybe the more volume offensively gifted players from some of the better programs across the country in the past couple of years. But Iowa State's built their programs here under T.J. Otzelberger with a lot of transfers, a lot of mid-major transfers, a lot of which guys that Iowa wanted along the way under Coach McCaffrey. So I don't think a bunch of guys from maybe the best mid-major this year is a bad thing, even though a couple of them are young. And certainly the core starts with Bennett Sturts. But we'll get to all of that. Let's welcome in Mr. Tony Schneider, who is as big of a Hawkeye homer as there is. So if anybody accuses me of being a hater, I brought in a homer to be my third guy in line. Tony, welcome. You
get some equilibrium in here, right, to balance between the hating and the loving.
Yeah. So, and looks like you've done some nice home renovations. So congratulations on the new house.
Yeah. Thank you. They did it overnight, and I'm just wiping off the dust and everything. So
congratulations on that, and Tony. I know this is an exciting time for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is your excitement / concern level after 2.5 weeks, whatever it's been, since the announcement that Coach McCollum would be taking over this program? Where is your mind at, I guess, right now with recruiting?
Patience. Even though I overreact, I've sent you messages and I'm like, oh man, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? Especially with like the guys who, I don't want to say left the team, but I mean, they did left the team for lack of a better term. They're no longer with the team. So, I don't know, just see what happens. I forgot what was said. I was going to say, it's such a low number of guys that get retained from previous coaches. That's what I was saying. So that's why I'm saying patience, relax. He has a plan. He'll get there. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I want to, let's just run real quickly through some of the guys that left. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've been on here. We've talked about things. We assumed that certain guys would leave, but boy, a lot's happened in 2 weeks. So, and I know that we're not breaking any news to anybody right now, but I want to kind of provide my thoughts here some days removed over some of these guys' departures. And I'm going to be totally transparent. And, as far as NIL numbers, I don't think any of us can be dogmatic about what some of these players have been offered, or in some cases, guys that have not yet made decisions, what they'll be offered. Let's start with Owen Freeman. I think we all heard the rumors that circulated in January and February about Owen, and he shut things down, and people were saying, he's going to head to, I think Creighton was the team or one of the teams that was out there early, and there were rumors that they offered him money during the season. I can't verify that, and I don't know that anybody here, I don't know that anybody in the Iowa media world can validate or somehow prove that didn't happen, but those rumors did exist, and nobody's going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and say Owen Freeman wasn't really hurt. I think it's clear he was hurt. Now, if you want to debate about whether or not he could have kept playing, we could do that. At this point, it doesn't really matter. He's moved on. I think it's based on the reports, the numbers that are out there. He got a bag to go to Creighton. More power to him. But I don't think, to both of you, I don't think there's any love lost with Iowa fans with Owen Freeman. Now, maybe there's some people that are going to be like, I'm rooting for that kid wherever he gets. I don't feel obliged like Owen Freeman gave Iowa so much that I, as an Iowa fan at heart, need to go out of my way to root for Creighton. But is that being unfair? Kyle, your thoughts on Freeman to Creighton?
No, absolutely not. I mean, whether he quit on the team or not is a question that, like you said, does it really matter? Not really at this point. But I don't think, certainly whenever he did play for Iowa, there was not this like endearment with the fans or this over the top effort. Certainly as the guy that, being inside and having some level of athleticism, not that he was some great athlete. I think we've kind of touched on that even while he was a Hawkeye. He wasn't like somebody that played in a style that would endear him to the fan base. I have much more, I'll root much harder for Josh Dix next year than I will Owen Freeman. I think Peyton Sanford or Price Sanford's a different case just because he went to a rival and took a nice amount of money to do so. So I think he'll get his fair share of boos, and in a friendly sense, I think he deserves them. But yeah, no, I don't think there's love lost with Owen Freeman. I don't think he endeared himself to the fan base or played a play style that was really something you would latch on to.
Tony, your thoughts on Owen?
I agree. There's really only been one transfer in recent memory that left me with a sour taste, and that was CJ Frederick with the rumors of leaving in the middle of the night. Outside of that, guys left, in open daylight, however you want to say it.
And by the way, this was a coaching change. So regardless of the rumors were true, there was a coaching change. So I don't think any of us expected, when Fran was fired, whether or not the rumors were true or not. And by the way, I think there's smoke, there's fire. We always say that. I think there probably was some fire somewhere. I mean, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of us are blaming Owen Freeman for leaving. Now, Brock Harding at TCU, I thought was an interesting one. I brought it up when he initially committed, and I mentioned it in this video published about a week ago. I happened to have – this was a really weird thing. I won't even get into how this happened, but I ended up being able to watch a TCU practice here a couple of years ago. It was not long after TCU beat Iowa down in Nice, Florida, and I was just amazed at how hard those guys practiced. And Jamie Dixon's teams, they're about defense, they're about rebounding, they're about physicality. Brock Harding, I mean, you got to have a point guard, right? And sometimes there's a balancing effect. So maybe that's what Jamie Dixon's trying to do. But to me, this is a very strange fit. I'll be anxious to see how he fits in there. This is more of one of those intriguing follows. Like, I'm going to follow this just for sheer intrigue. Am I off on this, Tony? You've watched a lot of college basketball. You know what Jamie Dixon's all about.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll see how the fit works, you know.
Am I being too hard on Brock?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No,
you know what, Corey? For the first few weeks of the Big Ten season, when you put stuff out, I think, and both of us were kind of critical on post game shows of how Brock was playing. But there were times when people were kind of like, "Oh, why is Corey hating on Brock?" I didn't really see that like online a whole lot in terms of like outside the comments. As soon as you put that TCU video out, people are like, "He's gone and he's still hating." That was like the tipping point. I was like, "Oh, I don't know. This seems like a weird fit to me too. I don't get it."
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I mean, if he's going to go down there and become all Big 12, great. I don't see it, but frankly, I was a little surprised that he didn't end up at Creighton. But Creighton, I don't know. I think Creighton maybe
because the early rumors with Owen were that him and Freeman were going to go as a package deal, right? That was one of the early things that started to swirl, and then it kind of,
I think what happened is
was one of the early things.
The schools that were interested in Owen were not interested in Brock, would be my guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think Creighton was swinging for bigger fish. Now, one of those bigger fish was Josh Dix. He heads to a Creighton Blue Jay team program that's been extremely successful under Greg McDermott. And, they're losing quite a bit, but they've also like reloaded over the past couple of years. They're just one of those perennial programs now in the Big East. And they got a lot of money to offer, being a program that doesn't have football, but they do have a lot of Nebraska fans who give a lot to Nebraska football. But this one, we kept hearing smoke about maybe he'd come back. I know Ben McCollum made a big push for him late, but he visited Indiana, he visited Illinois, he visited Kansas. He made his rounds, and I was told by a source that knows Josh Dix here, a day or two before he announced this, that they were under the impression that he wanted to return. He wanted to come back to Iowa. But then there's these numbers that are floated around, 1.5, 2, I think 2.3 was maybe the biggest number I heard. If Creighton gave him, we don't know this for sure, but if Creighton gave him $2.3 million for 1 year, hey, take your money and go, brother, because
go have fun.
I don't want on.
Can I tell you what I heard, Corey, as far as the Josh Dix situation?
Sure.
So I have a good friend who follows a lot of the Illinois message boards, and he was one of their visits. So essentially what their version of the story was that Iowa had offered, it wasn't an exact amount given, but it was a little bit over $1 million. Kansas had then matched that, and Creighton had matched that, but weren't willing to exceed it. And then Josh wasn't originally planning, again, this is according to them, Josh wasn't originally planning on visiting Illinois or Indiana, but wanted to use those last two visits as a chance to drive the price up, basically, to see if he could, because Illinois has a big NIL collective for men's basketball. They put a lot of money into men's basketball year in, year out. And so his intention was to go on those visits to try to drive the price up, which worked because Illinois offered him something in the high 1 million range, like up towards $2 million is what they were reporting. And then at that point, Creighton swooped in with 2.3 million. That was where that number came from. And that was how he got his money, which, by the way, this is why I have no animus towards Josh. And he got $2.3 million. I cannot say I wouldn't have made that same decision in a second. That would have been the same decision I would have made.
Tony?
I think there was also some family medical history with Josh as well that I think played some role into that.
Yeah, there are rumblings that this maybe was somewhat family related. Yeah. And so anyways, I'd certainly have no animus toward Josh Dix. It's a blow without question that Iowa wasn't able to retain him. And then, of course, we don't want to surpass this one. Riley Mulvey commits to Fran McCaffrey's old school, Siena. Mm-hmm. So happy for him. I don't really know what there is to say about this other than, hey, go play somewhere and actually see the court, because he wasn't going to see the court here. And he actually gave them more his senior year than I expected. He's got 1 year left, so he heads to Siena. Nice kid, though, and he's going to be closer to home, Tony.
Yeah. And wasn't he an early enrollee? I want to say, didn't he enroll he had graduated?
Yeah, he reclassified. Right.
Yeah, he graduated early or something like that. And I don't know.
So, anyways, folks, those are the departures so far. We have not gotten word from Seydou Traoré. Have you heard anything on Dembele?
No.
I haven't heard.
You skipped over another one, or did you do that on purpose?
Who did I skip over? Oh, I'm sorry. I got it right here. Let's not skip over maybe the most obvious one because of where he went, and that's Price Sanford to the crown champion Nebraska Cornhuskers. This one's going to make some people upset. Has made people upset. But hey, I go back to what I said at the outset. I expected when they made this coaching change that it would be a roster overhaul and that you'd be effectively cleaning house. Now, again, some of the numbers that are thrown out there have kind of been all over the place, what I've seen. But, Price has got 2 years left of eligibility remaining. I saw part of his interview with Scott Reister of KCCI, where he basically said he wants to play with a lot of freedom, shoot a lot of threes. And somebody in the comments, I don't even know who it was, basically said, okay, so he doesn't want to play defense. He basically wants another Fran system. And I'm like, hey, frankly, Tony, if that's what he wants, and frankly, let's be honest, isn't that sort of what the Sanfords, that's how they've always played. They're not good defenders. They're not athletic enough to do certain things that you'd like 6'7", 6'8" forwards to do, but they love to let it rain. So I'm just like, you know what? Let him go, man. Let him go. If that's, I know McCollum wanted him back. It's not like McCollum didn't want Price. That's well documented. And McCollum's not been shy about talking about wanting Dix back and wanting Price back and wanting Cooper back. But this one, if the money that's out there, the numbers that have been floated around are anywhere close to accurate, and then given his comments, I don't know. I don't want to say no love lost because, yeah, he did give him 2 years. He's going to a rival, and I just don't know that he fits the Ben McCollum style of play anyways. So I don't know how much Iowa was able to offer Price. I'm sure there are numbers floating around out there too. But, Tony, your thoughts on Price to Big Red?
2 things on that, I guess. Number one, I guess them and the family were big Nebraska fans.
Yep.
Before they even started growing up. So,
but he also grew up an Iowa State fan.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like, I don't know. There's a picture of Josh Dix at one time. I remember when he committed that like his whole family was wearing like Iowa shirts, and I thought they were maybe diehard Iowa fans. Maybe they weren't. I don't know. I couldn't find it. But hearing the backstory of Price and the Sanfords being Nebraska fans than Iowa State fans, whatever, doesn't really break my heart as much. And then the second thing I want to add on, you were saying their style of play. I forgot where I read it someplace that someone was saying, these kids nowadays, they're committing not to the name on the front of the jersey, but the coach and the style of play that the coach has. So that kind of checks out, with that's the style of play Price wants to play with, and maybe that's what they're going to let him do over there in Lincoln.
I can't wait for Iowa to lock him down. That's what I can't wait for.
That's
I can't wait for Iowa to lock him down. Is it a surprise, a coincidence that he announced the day after Peyton wore the jersey?
I think that was
all time, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyways,
got to give your older brother the spotlight still, for a little bit, which makes sense.
And I think there would have been some dumb people that would have taken it personally that, here's a younger Sanford going to Nebraska and his older brothers has the gall to wear the Hawkeye uniform at the 3-point shooting contest down south. So anyways, folks, I don't want to spend too much time. We've already spent 25 minutes talking about the past. How about we talk about some of the guys that are here? And if you've missed any of the recruiting videos that I've published here over the last week, we've got more coming, but we've talked about Bennett Sturts. We've talked about Kale Combs, Cam Manyow. Am I pronouncing his name right, Tony?
Yeah.
Cam Manyow, who, by the way, I'm excited to watch because I think he brings a different level of toughness and physicality. It's something that I was missed on the inside of that defense for a long time. And then, of course, a couple of guys I've not talked about yet formally, Isaiah Howard being one. And then, am I missing someone else? Isaiah Howard and who am I missing, Tony?
Cale Combs.
Oh, I talked about Combs. Am I missing
Banks?
Davion Banks.
Yeah.
Davion Banks. So, boy, defense, physicality all throughout that Drake roster. And Ben's done a nice job getting those guys home. And no, you can't win from January to March with a Missouri Valley roster, but it is the best Missouri Valley roster that was out there. So there's reason for optimism there and some young talent that maybe has not yet been fully developed. I do want to talk about some of the guys that Iowa is currently pursuing, because I think that's what people are most concerned with right now. And I think we can start.
Can we? I've got something, Corey. We can pull this up as we kind of talk about this. I was just doing stuff before the show. Let me see here. Let me present a tab real quick, just so that, because it's easier for me personally just to have this stuff up in front of me. So this is what we've got right now in terms of eligibility. So we can kind of, if you want to do this, Corey, if you want to, as we walk through this, you can talk about holes that we might be filling. And then I also have a leaderboard of open Big Ten scholarships if you want to see that at some point too. How many scholarships each team has left.
Make this a little bit bigger, would you? Can you make that a little bit zoom in like you were a second ago? It kind of zoomed back out, but if you can make that sort of, there you go.
Here?
Yep, that looks good. Okay, so
I'll delete this. There we go.
So you've got eligibility listed
right.
here. You've got kind of depth chart, if you will, and previous school stats along.
It's not an exact science, but it's kind of what we've got right now.
So I think maybe we're selling Cam Manyow short. I think he could end up being their starting center. Tony, am I wrong? Let's get this comment off your face.
You're fine. I think he'll be the 4.
You think he'll be the 4?
Yeah.
Oh.
He can't stretch the floor, Tony.
Okay.
No. And he might not even be, if you want to be my honest opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if you switch power forward 1 and power forward 2.
Okay. But Tony, Cam cannot stretch the floor.
I'm sorry, Tavian Banks up there. I'm sorry. I wouldn't be surprised if Cam, talking completely different people. You have Banks. Okay. I have Banks at the small forward and Cooper at the 4. That's the only thing. Sorry. I was confusing Cooper with Banks or Manyow with Banks. I'm sorry. My bad.
Okay. I mean, we can do that if you
No.
want.
No.
Let's do. No, don't edit it. Okay.
Whatever. It's your thing. I'm not going to make. I'm just telling you my opinion. That's all.
I just threw the names in the first slots that I thought I could put them in.
Let's go back to our original. So Bennett Sturts is your starter at the 1. Yeah. I think Cam Manyow is a 5. I don't care size wise. I think he's got to play the 5.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't stretch the floor at all. In fact, he's a really bad free throw shooter, and that's something that if he's going to become a better offensive player, he's going to have to learn how to cash in at the line. So that's somewhat of a concern. I think Cale Combs, I really like Cale Combs and Isaiah Howard. I like Cale Combs. His offensive game is maybe somewhat untapped into, but he's got a really smooth jumper, and it is deceiving because he's a lefty. For some reason, left-handed jump shooters always look prettier on tape, but he's got a really good-looking shot. And Cooper Koch is a Big Ten player. Cooper Koch in 2 years could end up being a first or second team all Big Ten type of guy. I mean, I think he's got that level of upside. So the question is, what sort of advancement does he make year 1 to year 2? If he gets this year back with a medical hardship, boy, you're talking about getting maybe above average to starting level production in his redshirt freshman year. That's a core. That is a foundation that Ben McCollum can build around. So let's talk about a couple of these guys as we can keep this up here, Kyle, but we may switch back and forth. Let's talk about a couple of guys that Iowa's in on right now, because I know, Doug, you're following the transfer portal closer than probably anybody out there right now. Maybe other than just a few guys that work for like On3 and that Sam Kaiser guy that runs his site. So how about this kid, Honor Huff out of Brooklyn, New York, who's played at VMI and at Chattanooga. This past year, Honor Huff averaging 15.2 points per game, along with a pair of assists and a pair of rebounds. But the big number that I think most pops off the chart for most people is 3-point shooting. He's considered maybe the best 3-point shooter in the country. Shot 42% from three and led the country in 3-point makes this past season. I've watched this kid on tape, and this might be the most impressive, like if you're just looking at highlights of a guy that's at the mid-major level with the possibility of going up a level. Now he's 5'10", so his size is going to be, that's forever going to be used against him. But man, this dude can ball. He is a Brooklyn hooper. Okay. Guy's got an NBA jump shot. It's a quick release. He can make it from anywhere on the floor. Yeah, I mean, how much have you guys seen of Honor Huff? And Iowa reportedly did hold a Zoom call with Honor Huff yesterday.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen just little clips from the mixtape, and then he obviously he led them to the NIT title, or not the NIT, but whatever, just a couple days ago. So, I mean, it's as far as the size, like coming off the bench, is it a huge issue? I mean, he'd be the type of person that Iowa would have at that backup point guard spot to kind of generate some offense with some backup guys that maybe can't create their own shot. So I don't hate the fit there. I mean, he's not. I don't see where he starts with Bennett Sturtz in the game to start the game at the 1 and finish the game at the 1. And I'd make, him averaging 15 and on those shooting numbers, maybe he want to come off the bench. So I don't know if that's a potential issue. But yeah, no, if I don't know exactly what his interest is in terms of what he's generating from a bunch of other schools, but I mean, if you could get him for the backup point guard spot, that would be awesome.
I don't think the height to me is an issue. We used to have someone who, what was Jabo? Jabo had to be 5'10", right? There's no way.
No, he was. I think Jabo was listed at 6 foot.
No, he was.
But I mean, in real life,
Yeah, he's Jabo's 6 feet tall. No, he's Jabo's 6 foot in real life.
Joe Toussaint was maybe 5'11", right?
Yeah, Joe Toussaint was built a little bigger though than this kid.
He felt like he was more like 5'10" or 5'9" in real life.
Does anybody believe that Brock Harding is 6 foot?
No.
I'm just saying, like Brock Harding. Hey, were we really afraid of a guy who's 5'10" but is a ridiculously good athlete? Like I'm not afraid of that.
No.
No.
And if I'm having to trade a kid like Brock Harding for a kid like Honor Huff, I'm taking Huff every time. That's just my opinion. Yeah. This is, I'm just saying, and I haven't seen this kid play at the Big Ten level, but that's just the reality of it. So anyways, so this is a kid that fans should be interested in, but he's being pursued by a lot of schools. He also visited Florida State over Zoom. And have not heard how that Zoom call went since yesterday. So we'll continue to kind of keep our eyes peeled for that one. Iowa also had a Zoom call, or was scheduled to have a Zoom call earlier today after completing the one with Honor Huff yesterday. And people don't realize this is a 7-day-a-week job to keep up with the transfer portal. So Tayshawn Comer from Evansville, and Tony, just let's quell people's fears right off the start here. So Tayshawn Comer did not play for Todd Licklider. Licklider was fired in 2022, and Comer actually played at Eastern Kentucky during his first 2 years. But he played this past year at Evansville, averaged 16 points per game, along with 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Again, I would say very solid handles. Maybe not the best pure jump shooter. He's not like Honor Huff is in that regard. But, obviously you see 3-point percentage wasn't terrific this past year, but he can break down guys down. He's got better size at 6'1", 190. And Yeah, he shoots free throws well, does a lot of things well, and he's a good athlete. But he's someone that Iowa reportedly talked to over Zoom today. Tony, I know you've probably researched this kid.
Now Evansville is in the MVC. For those
Correct.
who may not know that.
Yep. Not a very good program, but it is NBC.
Where did McCollum come from?
No, that's the same conference. Yep.
So I would like to think McCollum probably knows a little bit about this kid. And there might be a reason he targeted him.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reason is. I mean, I don't know. I don't have Ben's number, obviously. But he probably has a reason, and there's something he saw on tape that made him, if the numbers, whatever the numbers are that they are, but like maybe there's something he saw in him, that he saw on tape, and that's why he targeted this guy. That's going to be interesting to see is the Valley guys that he targets. There's probably a reason why.
And he targeted a couple of guys from Valparaiso, missed on.
Yep.
I know people they don't like when you say missed because we don't know what offers have been handed down. But guys that Iowa was in contact with early, a couple of highly touted transfers from Valpo that have gone different places. And I'm going to actually share my screen here in a second. But is there anybody else off the top of your head that they did have the kid from Lipscomb? I'll share my whole screen here in a second. But the kid from Lipscomb that recently transferred, committed to Wisconsin, right? Or no, was it
Yes.
Washington?
Washington.
Right?
Yeah, it was Washington.
Yeah. Austin Rapp committed to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
This is so stupid. I love how we're just following dozens of players.
There's
literally, I mean, as of it, over the last week, it's literally a dozen players.
Yeah.
Maybe more than that they've been rumored to be in contact with.
I shared that thing with Corey, and that list is 30 people long, Corey?
Yeah, I haven't actually. So that list you sent me, I have not scrolled through every person.
But it's just gonna. We're still probably gonna get some more, even as the final, the championship game ends tonight. There'll be more people that go in the portal. It's just an ever-changing thing. It's just like, I mean, I try to get excited about it, but just like,
what's there? Frankly, what's there to get excited until there's a visit?
These things change so much. Like, how many times did we hear reports back and forth of Dix is coming to us? No, Dix is going to Kansas. No, now Dix is going to go to Illinois or Indiana. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, okay, it's Creighton. Like, it's just such a whirlwind. And it's happening so fast. That's the thing. It has to happen fast just because the timing of the portal. Like, you got to take your spot. Some of these kids, you got to take the spot while you have it. And it just, and that list is just half of it.
In 24 hours, it may be gone.
Yeah, so this list is not all inclusive, but this is kind of the list. This was my personal list that I compiled along the way. And all the guys who are in red are guys that committed elsewhere. But these are guys that were reportedly in contact with Iowa at some point along the way. Now, this is, again, not all inclusive. But you start at the top. All right. Valpo ends up going to Xavier. Cooper Schwieger, Valpo, goes to Wake Forest. Trayson Eaglestaff, North Dakota, commits to South Carolina. Connor Enright, the DePaul transfer, who also played for – who did he play for? Didn't he play Drake for DeVries?
He was at DePaul.
He visits Iowa, right? He visited Iowa, and then he ends up at Indiana, play for DeVries. I have not heard anything on Gavin Walsh, the Binghamton transfer. Iowa was in contact with him. He remains uncommitted. Quentin Jones just committed to St. Louis a few days ago. Markel Sutton, I think just yesterday, committed from Nebraska Omaha to LSU. Keontae Jones goes from Cal State Northridge to USC. Carson Tout, uncommitted, but I've not heard anything indicating that Iowa's, gotten headway with him. And he's a very highly sought after rebounder from Northern Arizona.
There's a Deshaun London.
Deshaun London that we should add.
That's the guy's name. No, that's the guy's name. That's the reporter who reported the Carson Tout interest.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So there's interest there. BJ Amat goes from Cal to Minnesota. Jalen Jackson, Indiana, Fort Worth to Butler. What did I say? Fort Worth. Fort Wayne. Cole Hargrove from Drexel to Providence. Victorious Miller from LSU. Reportedly in contact with Iowa. He has gone elsewhere. No, he's not gone elsewhere. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he has. He went to Oklahoma State.
Okay, great. I can't keep up. Morris then goes from Illinois to Michigan, so within the conference. Austin Rapp, he put Iowa in his top 5 and promptly committed to Wisconsin. Jacob Ognisevich, who Iowa fans were excited about, he visited, and he recently went committed to Washington.
That was the most painful miss so far, I think.
Probably. I think fans were excited because Austin Rapp put Iowa in the top 5, but they didn't even get a visit out of him.
No, yeah.
So Honor Huff, I mentioned him from Chattanooga, had a Zoom call yesterday, and then Duke Brennan from Grand Canyon. I've not heard anything more about. I mean, that was just here a day or two ago. If Iowa's got anything scheduled with him, he's also highly sought after. He's another big. But it's clear Iowa is targeting, right now, they appear to be targeting guys that can play the 5 and guys that can play the 1. And, they've got their point guard in Bennett Sturts, but can we all agree they really have no depth after that? They have nobody else. They have nobody else that can play the point right now. Like Cale Combs is not a point guard. Isaiah Howard's not a point guard. So they have to have somebody else who can handle the ball, whether they're starting or not. And you've got to be able to, first of all, the money thing is continuing to be a factor as we move forward in this era. But then you got to have somebody who can stretch the floor that plays in the front court. I have not watched a lot of Duke Brennan tape. I do know Ognisevich, the kid from Lipscomb, could stretch the floor really well. He's the type of kid that Iowa would have really liked. You guys have any comments on this list? I know it's not all inclusive. There's guys that I left off here.
It's speed dating. That's my comment from T. Hink.
I would say it's like the weather in Iowa. Just wait an hour and it'll change.
Right.
However you want to say, speed dating. It's like the weather. It's, we can get excited and keep following these kids, and it's good. There's excitement back. We got a whole new roster to fill. Some of it's filled, obviously, but we've got a whole new roster to fill, and who knows what's going to be from day to day to day to hour. Even by the time we get off this Zoom or during this Zoom, there could be new traction with somebody else that we don't even know. No one knows. Like, would it shock you?
No.
If you see something on, social media or whatever, this kid out of nowhere, and then Iowa had him on a visit, or Iowa did a Zoom call with him today, and now we're the new leader, and it was something that's not even on anybody's list.
Yeah.
That's just the craziness of it is. Who knows? It's just going to change.
All right, we're going to add a couple because we got a couple people who want to hop on here, and again, we're just minutes away from us welcoming Coach Gary Close and Acie Earl. So we've got a few more minutes here with Kyle and Tony. I want to add Doug into the mix as well. Doug, I know you have been following this as close as Tony has.
I'm paying like $50 between On3, 247, LA Clough, all of them. And my dad said I have to give them up once the recruiting cycle ends.
So they're just Kyle, they're just all those websites are just taking Doug's money.
Yes.
And they're not. I tried to get you to join another one. We're trying to.
I know. Well, I listened to Tom Caker go off on as much as I complain about our comment section or message boards or our comment section or our live chat, man, there's some very disrespectful people out there. And I'm sorry if I've been disrespectful to anyone, but man, I was just thinking about this. What if Fred Hoiberg gets fired next year and Price wants to come back? He wouldn't want to come back after some of the things people have said. That's just a joke. But I just said, don't burn bridges. These guys can all come back next year. Who knows?
Well, first of all, I don't know that would fans want Price Sanford back for one more year?
Probably not now.
No, I don't want Price Sanford back. I don't want Price Sanford back. Go to Nebraska. See you, buddy. As much as we are not in the good old days, sometimes I wonder, with money floating around to this guy and that guy, where is the old school competition of you went to my rival, see you later? No, I don't want that. Well, even if we're in this new modern age. Bye.
Tony, we got our best point guard. Well, probably Tony, you know who the best player we ever got from Nebraska is, right?
Woolridge.
Hunter Woolridge. Played 1 year at Nebraska and then was all he was Underwood's amazing. But
Hey,
yeah,
who was that kid that was a ex-con that Fran recruited?
Hubbard, and he played in the PTL and then got in trouble again and left. It was
hold on a second. He got in trouble again.
Yeah. He never played. I
know he never played, but what happened? How did he get in trouble again? What did he do?
They never specified. They kicked him off, and he went to like Morgan State and played 1 year there. But yeah, the guy was 26 when he was trying to be a freshman.
Well, because he had been in prison, right?
Yeah.
How did they find him? How did they find him, Tony? Do you remember that story? Because I remember I was in high school when that all happened.
I think it was the California Penal League.
Major League. I love it.
Okay. All right.
Well, also, I was making my list. So you guys are forgetting names, but again, who knows?
Oh, there's so many. Yeah.
The Xavier decommit. Is he already off the board?
Oh, Nick, last name. Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about 25 class. Yeah.
I'm missing. What Lewis was there a Lewis? Not our Lewis from Florida, but another Lewis, wasn't there?
Aren't we talking about Nick Lewis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Lewis is scheduled to visit, I believe, in 4 days. Correct?
That'd be a big get.
Yeah, and he has I don't know how much he is a point guard. He's a 4-star actually he was an ex-Fran recruit, and he was committed to Xavier. So yeah, I mean, with Miller going to Texas, I don't know if Texas is in the mix for him. I have no idea. But yeah, he's a very athletic. He'd be a true freshman. He'd have to learn, and hey, you wouldn't have a lot of pressure if Sturtz is running the show at the 1.
Well, a couple of things that we got to remember is he plays his guys a lot of minutes. The other thing to remember is they'll only go 8 or 9 deep. That's what he did at Drake, and that's from wherever I've been told. That's what he did at Northwest, and so in Bennett and the other guy, the other guard that transferred from Northwest, were averaging 38 minutes a game. So I think he's going to run those guys. A couple things. I am looking forward to having a very conditioned basketball team. I wouldn't say Fran's teams were very conditioned. I've talked about the strength and conditioning. I wasn't trying to make any comments about Bill Maxwell, but I think there'll be more modern conditioning done. And Ben, from everything I've seen from the clips of the Drake workouts they were doing, I saw him on a track running up and down Drake Stadium. I can only imagine running up down 41 rows at Carver will probably get those guys in shape.
What about the eating habits, though? Wasn't there a video that came out about Bennett Sturtz's eating habits? Tony, what was that all about? What?
I don't know. I think it was a girl, or wasn't it some girl filming?
Probably his girlfriend. That's what my guess is. Yeah. So, Hawkeye
fans. I think something I want to add on to what Doug said is maybe the strength and conditioning coach was operating under what Fran wanted the players to be like. So we may not sometimes. The strength coach may not be a bad coach. It just maybe he was given the directive. This is how I want the players to be built.
Yeah.
And obviously Ben's going to have his players be built in a different fashion, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. I think that they're going to do, it's just going to be a lot of changes. They're not, don't be like Fran was. And it's not Tyler Clear 2.0. It's Ben Ryan. Bo Ryan 2.0. I really think very highly of McCollum, and he's a NIAC grad just like I am. He was coached by you probably are even too young to remember because I wasn't born when Crafton played, but he was coached by Steve Crafton. You can talk to Coach Close about Steve Crafton. He's coached by Steve Crafton at NIAC, so that was another Iowa tie he had. A trivia question about Steve Crafton, as we're talking about the transfer portal. Steve Crafton is the first ever player to play on 2 different teams in the Final Four, and now that'll probably happen pretty consistently. Steve Crafton played for North Carolina in the Final Four and played for Iowa in the Final Four. He was the first ever player to do that, and now we have the transfer portal, and there'll be probably 20 players to do that in the next 5 years.
Well, that might be a little bit of exaggeration.
It wouldn't shock me, though. I mean, if with the way this NIL is going, and I mean, I think this year was an anomaly. that people are saying, well, look what the Final Four was, and it was all the 1 seeds and blue bloods. I really do think those 4 teams this year were head and shoulders above everyone else. So there's a reason they made it. But
I had all 4 of the 1 seeds in my Final Four.
I had all of them but Auburn.
Yeah.
But I think that it's too early to say, well, look, the NIL is ruining the mid-majors and the Cinderella stories because there wasn't that much this year. We'll see if it holds for another year or two. I think we need some more data before we can just say you're not going to see that. But if that is the case and the, mid-major is done, you had this year you had the kid that transferred from Carolina to Arizona, the guard. I mean, you can see kids going from high major to high major, and it could happen very easily.
Also, somebody in the chat here brings up Hauser. So who are we talking about
yes.
here? So
Kansas State guy. Go ahead.
So who are we talking about here?
Well, supposedly by his agent, he's had 25 schools already contact him. But he has a list. He's a 2-guard from K-State.
Shoots the ball really well.
Shoots the ball well. I mean, we definitely are, like you guys said. I mean, I'm having a hard time keeping track because I was getting the names of the Chattanooga kid and the Evansville kid mixed up. Basically, if there's a 2-guard, if there's a guard in the portal and big in the portal, we've probably reached out to them. Now, how much they've wanted to reciprocate that, it hasn't been said yet. We'll know a lot because they're in a dead period now, right, Tony?
No, it's the dead period ends tomorrow, I think. I want to say
my face is covered up by the question.
It's not Hauser, it's Hausen.
Yes,
so that's why I was confused. Yeah, so Brendan Hausen, 6'4", out of Kansas State, previous Villanova Wildcat. So
correct.
Averaged 10.9. Well, he averaged, let's just round up, 11-3 on the season this past year and shot 39%. He's a 39% 3-point shooter on his career.
This is a question for all three. Again, I watched most of that, both the 2 NCAA tournament games. Are they wanting somebody? They're wanting somebody to compliment Bennett. Bennett's don't be the main ball handler, right?
Well, I called him. When I watched him in the NCAA tournament, I saw a guy who I thought was probably going to fit more as an off guard who could handle the ball.
I see that too,
like a Josh Dix almost to some extent. But boy, Ben has been on the record since. And Ben's coached this guy from, not from infancy. I'm exaggerating, of course, but for a long time. And he's said he's one of the best point guards he believes in the country. So to hear him say that makes me think that the plan is just to play him as the starting point and let him operate things. I tell you, he's really good in the pick and roll, right? Yeah. He's really good with ball screens. And that's the thing about like guys like Cam Magnow. Like he's going to be working a lot off of ball screens and, a lot of easy shots around the rim. You're not going to be asking a guy like Magnow to be posting up a lot. It's just, that's not what, and I want to ask Gary about this because I'm certainly no expert about offenses or defenses, but this appears to be more of an NBA style of offense than even what you see from like a Fran offense.
They ran a lot. Yeah.
Say that again, Doug.
They ran a lot of set. Yeah, it was. I would agree. They use the ball screen a lot more than Fran did
everywhere. Yeah. And so, I don't know.
There's different actions off the ball screen too. It wasn't always just going to the hoop.
Yeah,
there's some that were flare out to the wings, straight to the hoop, whatever. Pop back. It's not just the same action over and over and over again. But I do know that he will attack the same action over and over and over again if you're not going to stop it.
Real quick. So YouTube sucks in the chat. I want to get this out of the way before 15 minutes until I think we got about 15 minutes and then we're going to have Acie and Coach Close join in here. So YouTube says I could get 100,000 at this point. If anybody's willing to offer me 100,000 to transfer from the Hawkeye of the Storm to some other platform, you just let me know.
What happens if that platform is an Iowa State show?
It's going to take a lot more than 100,000.
Okay. I just wanted to see what the price was there.
Now I have had a lot of people here. I toyed with this idea, Kyle. I have a lot of people over the last month begging me to shave. I don't know what people's infatuation with me shaving is, but What do you think I could what do you think the right dollar amount, Tony, for me to tell the chat that I would shave for? How much do you think I should how much do you think I should campaign for, fundraise to shave? I'm not auctioning off my hair, by the way.
What
This isn't going
what
to
is the career? Hold on, I want to look this up before I give you
it's
the
not
number.
going to be repurposed. So do you think I could campaign for super chat donations? And
I say 267 live viewers. Let's go about 250 bucks, average of about.
Hold on, no, you're saying 200 live viewers?
we had
my
267.
My
people.
number is easily amassed. Then I was going to say, how many career wins does Ben McCollum have now? 426.
426.
That's $2 per person. He has 426.
Folks, I'll tell you what. If we get $420 worth of donations during today's show, I will shave, and I'm not gonna shave my eyebrows, but I will shave I will shave my entire face for $420.
Now, okay, Corey, what are the eyebrows worth then? What are the eyebrows worth?
Oh, holy!
That's the 100K number.
Yeah, that's
there's
I don't know why people are so interested in having me shave, but I don't know. Maybe it's just
I think it's for so long people were saying the baby face thing. Yeah.
I had somebody the other day say it was on my show with Mark. He said, "Man, you used to look really young," and they were like really genuine about it. I'm like, "Do I look really old? Like, have I aged in the last year?"
You aged.
Anyway,
I'm gonna get going here.
Read that comment, Corey.
$1 million for you to shave your head and wear a purple wig and Kim Hokey Flamingo outfit for a whole year. Hey, I might have to consider that. I might have to consider that offer. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, my last question is one. I have a comment and a question. First, Bennett's the only player that is a D2 player. So calling these guys D2 guys, Combs, Howard. Two of these guys transferred from Wyoming. One was a JUCO transfer. Banks was getting looked at by Iowa State, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, Corey. Banks was getting TJ liked Banks, but so hopefully it gives some people some comfort. But my last question is, as we're looking at the portal, and we know he won't go very deep, over under of how many Drake guys start for the Iowa Hawkeyes next year, 2.5, so 2.5. Over under how many Drake guys start next year for Iowa?
Under.
I'll say under to be safe, but I do think there's a chance. It's obvious. That's a real easy. I mean, it's either going to be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Unless something drastic changes.
Yep.
And if you go higher than 3, that means they really had a hard time.
Yep.
From here on out.
So when people are judging, these guys, the Drake guys, Combs and Howard, Combs is on be 10 minutes a game. It's not like he's on, and he's not going to have a different role than what he had Drake.
He's not a bad player, though.
No. Well, he's a good athlete. You said he was getting recruited by Tim Lester and stuff. He's a good athlete.
Excellent athlete. Receiver. Lester wanted him to play receiver. Think about that. Lester's known for having really underrated athletes as receivers.
But we're really only asking Bennett to be the star, so far until we know who they are, until they miss on a lot of guys. They'd have to miss on a lot of guys, I think, to really just be really reliant on the Drake guys.
I'll tell you the biggest concern I have is Lester trying to poach Combs off that roster.
Maybe he'll do Wagner. Amon Wagner, his 5th year, he'll go walk onto the football team.
Yeah.
Iowa State, Stevie Johnson did that for Iowa State. He was on that team that went to the Elite 8, and then next year was even Tony doesn't know who I'm talking about, but he was a really good athlete that did that at Iowa State. He was on the anyway. I'm not worried now, but come talk to me in 2 weeks, and if they miss on a lot of guys, I'll start getting worried.
Doug,
James,
real quick before you get to James, Gary says, "Are we looking to become a mid-major because that's all we're hearing?"
Well, those mid-major guys are averaging 18, 19 points a game.
Well,
so I mean, are you going to, let me provide some pushback there to Gary. That's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah,
look, that's what everyone else is doing, is poaching these mid-majors. I mean, we're talking about these kids. You have the kid, Ingolstaff, North Dakota State, mid-major, went to South Carolina. Oscar Clough, South Dakota State, went to Purdue. The two Valpo kids, mid-majors, went to Wake Forest and Xavier. The Quentin James, he stayed mid-major, St. Louis. But, kid from Purdue, Fort Wayne to Butler. All these kids, I just keep the kids from – you can just keep going down the list, and they're all mid-major kids. So we're not the only school that's doing this.
I'd rather get a 22-year-old than an 18-year-old. I mean, I don't want to take that out of context, but these guys are 4 years older, and these guys are way better players. Like I said, you're getting good players that have been developed. Rick Pitino just said he will not recruit high school kids anymore. So if he's not doing it, why
is that what he said? He said he's not going to recruit high school kids anymore.
There's some of these coaches who are going to give up on high school kids. Really, they are.
That's crazy.
Sorry. That's one of the funniest things I think I've ever heard in my life.
I'll get off. And I wish I would. Hey, my big three when I was growing up, my first big three was Val Barnes, Chris Street, and Acie Earl. Acie Earl is, and this is my hot take too, Acie Earl is the best Iowa basketball player of the 90s. And you can look at it, he was the 19th pick by the Boston Celtics and a very good draft, 365 block shots. He had 126 block shots his junior year. The whole Iowa team this year only had 137 block shots.
Doug, are you going to call in when Acie's on here?
Yeah, maybe. I have something I need to do, but maybe.
Oh, thanks, Doug. Appreciate you.
I agree with Doug on two of the three. My third, instead of Val Barnes, would be Chris Kingsbury, because just the guy was just as soon as you get in the gym, he's chucking it up. So yeah, I just like that.
Yeah. Okay, folks, go ahead, Tony.
No, I mean, I just wanted to, further add on that point. Like, this is the way it is nowadays. Is these mid-major kids are gonna be poached by the high majors. You're not gonna. I mean, it's life-changing money that's being offered that these mid-majors aren't. That there's no way they can compete with it. And for some of these schools, just dropping $500,000 or whatever it takes to easily get them away. We're talking. The number that was out there, last year, Iowa's total budget, it's different because of revenue sharing, but last year we were at 1.5 to 1.2, whatever you want to say. I think we can all agree both Dix and Freeman probably got more than our whole budget last year, this upcoming year. We'll probably be getting more than that. For sure. Yeah. Easily. Now think about that, where we're at. Now, how much do you think these low and mid-major guys are getting? And they're just going to be depth pieces or whatever. This is the way it is. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. Sad.
Folks, it is what it is. This is the state of college athletics. Bob, reminding everybody in the chat, please hit that like button, folks, because it does help. And this show is flying by already, because in just minutes we're going to be taking a quick break, and then we'll be joined by Acie Earl and Coach Gary Close talking about the Ben McCollum era, and we're going to reflect on what made Acie Earl an NBA prospect, what made him such a good rebounder and defender, and what Gary remembers about the Acie era. And I really do think, I want to get their opinions on this certainly, but one of the reasons why I'm not concerned about where the roster is, even if Ben struggles to add guys that are, high radar guys via the portal here in the next couple of weeks, one of the reasons why I'm not that concerned is because with a coach who understands how to coach defense, emphasize rebounding, etc., you could call him almost a tactician with how he goes about the game of basketball. It's well documented. And who has a strong point guard in Bennett Sturtz, one of the best guards in the country next year, we expect, or suspect, I guess. I don't think I think with good coaching, talent is a little less important in some regards. Like you can figure out a way to win games because you're just working hard defensively. You're tough, you're defensive minded, you're scrappy. And I think you're going to see that out of a Ben McCollum coach team. any year, but especially year one, because I think they're going to have less talent to work off of. Whereas with Fran, if they had a below average roster of talent, especially on the offensive end, and that's normally what we think of when we think of talent. We think of ability to make shots and cross guys over and score, and these Brock Harding-esque passes. That's what we think of when we think of talent. But how about just scrappiness, guys who are in the right place, who are basketball savvy, who are physical, who are tough? That's what some of these guys from Drake, that's what they were in year one under McCollum there. Okay. And some of them were transfers from Northwest Missouri State. Some of them were transfers from Wyoming. He compiled a roster of guys and dominated that league, and then won an NCAA tournament game and competed really well, and fell up short against Texas Tech. But I don't think this sounds cliche, but talent is as important when you play this style as when you play a Fran McCaffrey style of hoops. So
I do want to add on to that. And I said it I forget which one of the shows I said it with you, is the point where that truly hit home is when you saw Bennett Sturts dive across the baseline in an NCAA tournament game for a loose ball. That scrappiness, like that he's the star player there, and he's going to go get those floorboards, and he's going to get it, and he's leading by example. And he had an interview that, he said that if you don't play defense, you're not going to play. It's as simple as that. If you don't put effort on the defensive end, you're not going to play for Ben McCollum. And I think that top-down leadership that he has, that he's shown, I think that's going to be a staple of his teams. And that's good. That's going to be refreshing to see. Because how often did you see guys dive on the ball?
It'll be interesting as well.
Go ahead.
Go.
Oh, well, I was just going to say too, I'm curious from a psychological perspective, like when you have so many of these like mid-major kids and transfers from other, high major programs, and they're getting like a lifetime's worth of money at 18, 19, 20 years old. Like how much of that, like, do you see that eroded just a bit in terms of like the number of players that are willing to put that kind of effort in? And does that effort start to stand out more versus what it would have in 2000 when it felt like a lot of those kids were putting in that kind of effort? Like, I don't know. There's just an element of like, okay, you've got these college kids making like $2-3 million in a season. Like, are they going to put their body on the line for a loose ball that way? Is that effort, like, is a dive for a loose ball going to stand out a little bit more now that you've got a bunch of kids that are comfortable, that don't feel the need to do that? I don't know. It's just, I think could be something that happens as the sport evolves.
Folks, you're watching Hawkeye Hangout, and good friend Kyle Spence and Tony Schneider. Appreciate you both being here. We're not done with, we're going to continue to talk about recruiting, and we'll have more shows like this here in the next couple of weeks because, there's going to be, Ben McCollum's going to get somebody out of the portal other than somebody from Drake. He just is. That's just reality. He's gonna, and he is someone that I think kids are going to want to play for. That there are things working against him right now, and I think he's going to have to win with less. But I do think he is savvy enough to do that. But we'll talk more about recruiting, and if I get any tidbits, folks, if you're not already subscribed here on the channel, you can become a premium member, and I'll once in a while I'll throw up some insider info over there on the channel to our premium subs, so folks can join via the YouTube channel. Tony, Kyle, thank you for being here, and either one of you, feel free to stick around and have a word with Acie or Coach Close here in a little bit.
Can do that.
All right. Well, folks, we are going to take a quick 60-second break thereabouts, and we're going to be joined here in just moments by Coach Gary Close and the one and the only Acie Earl. So this is going to be a fun show. We've been anticipating this for a while, and I'll be anxious to get both of their thoughts on the newest head coach for Iowa men's basketball, one Ben McCollum. So we'll be right back after a quick break. You're watching Hawkeye Hangout here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Let me introduce you to one of the proud supporters of From the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa floor covering down in Bondurant. Now, for the last year and a half, you've heard me talk about this great company in the heart of central Iowa. They've got their tough core, click together, 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, great for you DIYers out there. But even if you're just a contractor or you need a different type of flooring, they've got you covered, whether it be tile showers, carpet. Give Iowa Floor Covering a chance to serve you better and serve your flooring needs. Visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. That's iowafloorcovering.com. Or you can give them a call at 515-379-7000. That's 515-379-7000. Thank you to Iowa Floor Covering in Bondurant. We appreciate Iowa Floor Covering for being a part of our live show here this afternoon as we head into our evening and about an hour prior to the start of the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship game. And I'm joined by a good friend of the show and of Hawkeye fans everywhere, Coach Gary Close. Gary.
Hey, Corey, how's it going?
Good to see you. I'm doing good, sir. How have you been?
Great. No complaints.
Are you you're living it up, aren't you? I can tell. You're living it up. Aren't you?
We're down south for a little bit longer, heading back in a couple days.
You've been golfing?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
All right. What you shooting? What you shooting these days?
Oh man, blazingly hot. The
Really?
golf game is at its peak right now.
We all think that Tiger is down with an Achilles injury, but in reality, he took the time off to golf with you, right? To be in your presence. So,
Although he did beat me.
Okay. All right. Well, that's disappointing to hear. You'll get him next time, Gary. But Gary, we're happy to be joined by you. We haven't talked to you since a lot's happened. Let's just say that in
That's for
the
sure.
Iowa basketball realm. Before we get to the latest news, we're going to welcome a Hawkeye great. Mr. Acie Earl is here with us as well.
How's it going?
Big fella. What's up, Ace?
Here.
All right.
Good to see
Acie,
you.
how you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Absolutely. It's good to see you both.
The ratings are going to go way up, Ace, with you on the show now.
Hopefully my own too. I got to get my Facebook Live popping here.
There you go. I got a lot. We got about an hour to talk because we obviously don't want to intervene with the big game tonight. The Florida Gators taking on the Houston Cougars for the national championship. Should be a great game, Gary. I mean, what a Final Four we've had with four number one seeds and terrific finish with Houston and Duke the other night. But let's get the obvious out of the way. Acie, I know I see you on social media a lot touting some of your books, and I want to kind of get fans caught up to what Acie Earl's involved with these days because some of the people that are familiar with this show, we just had Tony and Doug on a little bit ago, and I think it was Doug said you're his favorite Hawk of the 90s. So what's Mr. Acie Earl up to in the 2025s of the world?
Well, just doing my camps, training kids, writing books, doing book signings, just kind of hanging out, trying to do the easy life, watching a lot of basketball. I coach high school freshman boys and 7th grade boys in the school district in Iowa City. So just a lot of basketball per se.
Gary, what was Acie like as a player?
Big time player. He was a big time player. I don't know if anybody improved more in their tenure at Iowa than Acie, from what he was as a high school kid coming in to how he finished.
There's a couple guys, big
There's
Les,
a couple, but
big Les.
you'd
Big
be in
Les.
that. You'd be in that list for sure, man. Hard work got him there, so it was fun to watch.
What was the recruitment process like for Acie? You remember who recruited Acie and what was that like?
Pearl, Acie Pearl. I'm a Pearl guy.
What was that like? What was it like being recruited by Bruce Pearl, Acie?
It was exciting. It was exciting. It was like he was like relentless. He recruited a lot of guys in his relentless style, and he was not afraid to go anywhere. He'd pop up at the school. He'd come to Summer League. He'd come to AAU. He came anywhere. He come to your house. He come to schoolyard. It was fun. It was fun to get recruited, and then to go on and see what he's doing now. I'm happy and blessed to be recruited by such a great coach.
You've obviously got a fondness for Iowa City. You've made it your home and stuck around. What's gone into the thought process there? What makes Iowa City home?
Kids, you have kids, you got to stay. So, I played in the NBA, and then I played 8 years overseas. And then, so my summer home base was overseas. So it was great, you know, because Coach Close was still coaching at Iowa and the guys were still coming around. We could play at the field house. We could play in prime time. So it was no better place to be in the summers and in the fall than there, because, you know, we had direct access to guys and we could play at a high level and help get those guys better, you know. So it was kind of like a pipeline that we fed into. So it was great, you know, because I got to know some of the other guys in different classes that, you know, I never had a relationship with, but it was good to play against those guys like, you know, Ricky Davis and Duez Henderson and J.R. Koch, and, you know, it just settled, and it just went on down the line, you know, where there were so many guys around. I mean, Reggie Evans, Dean Oliver, you go down the list of guys that were there. And we had a hand in helping them develop, you know, in the summers, because we play against them in prime time and play against them in the field house. So that was great.
Doug is in the chat. He wants to know where your son's playing these days.
He's sitting out. He's still trying to get healthy. He had some really bad injuries during high school. He played Iowa City West. He played with Pete Moe's son and Michael Morgan's son, Val Barnes' two sons, McCaffrey's son. And so he's sitting out. He's currently at Kansas, and I think he's going to try to make a run next year at it. So hopefully.
Good stuff. Gary, did you think Big Ace was a coach in the making?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. He was a very intelligent player and enjoyed learning things about the game. So no, I think that's probably a good spot for him. And I'm sure he does a great job, because he's lived it. So it's easier to coach and teach when you've done it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Davis really instilled in all of us to think the game, and he challenged us all the time. And I tell people all the time, one of his favorite things he'd say when you'd make a mistake, he's like, "What were you thinking?" And he wanted you to say that. He wanted you to tell him what you thought, like, why'd you make the pass? Why did you go there? Why did you do this? And I learned the game at a high level, and I didn't even know that my basketball IQ was that high until I started playing overseas, when I started playing with a lot of the overseas guys. And I fit right in right away, you know, and I played most of my career in Eastern Europe, which is a very tough place to play, you know, Russia, Poland, Turkey, Serbia, Montenegro, Croatia. And a lot of Americans don't play there unless you can understand the game. And I attribute a lot of that from being at Iowa with Coach Davis, because he made you think the game. And so like when I started coaching, it was somewhat easy because I knew the game, you know, but I never thought I'd be a coach, but it came easier than what I thought.
There you go.
There's a couple of questions here in the chat, and I do kind of the point of the timing of this show is with the new era here with Iowa men's basketball. I want to get your thoughts on this. I want to throw up a picture that just fascinates me as a younger fan, but also somebody who has kind of covered the sport the way I cover it here over the last 4 to 5 years. But Kerry wants to know about your thoughts on NIL and the portal, Acie. And I mean, I know how Gary feels because we've
yeah, I mean, it'd be very interesting, and I would pick Coach Close's brain on this. Like I was a red shirt. Like I wasn't good enough to get on the floor. Like there were 8 NBA players on that roster when I was a freshman. And so looking back on it now, like I may have been a guy to hit the portal. But you know, it'd be interesting, Coach Close, is when you guys took over from Stanford, when you guys had all the traveling guys, and some of those guys didn't play. Like, how many of you think of those guys would have hit the portal? Like Kevin Campbell, Bill Jones, Michael Reeves, Ken Hill.
Yeah, no, I agree. There could have been a lot of them, and it seems that people don't stay very long if they're not playing or not getting what they want. They're moving on. Some move on more than once, like they're moving every year. So
yeah,
that would have been that'd been real interesting.
That'd have been interesting. Yeah,
because I know there were a few that were very frustrated.
Yeah,
a couple. Brad Lohaus wasn't going to play.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember the story, but we were going to Korea and China. We had a foreign trip that year.
Yeah. That was the trip before you guys took over.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the best thing that happened to you guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
We
told Brad, hey,
mesh, and you guys put the system in.
Yep.
So when you guys came back from that trip and you hit the ground running, the system was already in.
It was huge.
Yeah.
But we told Brad, why don't you go through practice and go on the trip with us, and then if you still feel like you don't want to play anymore, then at least you've given it a go. And of course, he ended up obviously staying and got a long NBA career out of it. So, that was a lucky break, because he very well may have not played. And I'm guessing if there had been a portal, he would have been long gone for sure.
Yeah, less maybe, for sure.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep.
Wasn't BJ kind of testing that? Wasn't that his? I've heard stories about that, Gary, that he kind of thought he was going to leave anyways, even without the existence of a portal at the time. Am I right?
Yeah, there was some chatter that he was going to head back closer to home, and was frustrated with his first year. And we kind of did the same thing. Hey, go through practice. Let's go on this trip. You can see how we, our style of play, and does it fit you? And then you can make it, a more stronger, more educated decision. And he did. And of course he stayed. So thankfully.
Good stuff. Jesse says, not only was Acie Earl a great Iowa player, he used to dominate at the field house. Boy, the good old days of the field house. I just hear stories. What was that like, Acie?
Well, we didn't know the significance of the field house until we got to the field house, right? So everybody was like, oh, go over and play, stay in shape. But it was a jungle, because other players came there to get reps off of us. And they were guys who drove down. I know they were junior college guys. They were D2 guys, D3 guys. They would drive down to come play against us. And their whole strategy was, if they could beat us or go at us, then they could feel like they're a player and they would be D1 or whatever. So I learned that very quickly, like as a freshman. Like, you can't be in there messing around. And too, Coach, there were guys that we had on scholarship that did not go over to the field house.
Yeah.
Because they would get dominated physically or athletically. I learned that early on. And then when I came from overseas, because I played such at a high level, I just was like, I'm not messing around with these guys. Like, you know what I mean? So it's funny you say that, or that guy says that, because I get people that tell me that all the time. Like, you blocked my shot in the field house like 8 times one day. Or like a guard told me, like, I picked him at half court and went down and dunked it. Like, I was not playing around. Like, the field house was not a place to go there for the week.
Right.
Seth wants to bring up the competition with Deion Thomas, the days of Iowa versus Illinois grudge matches. What were those battles like, Gary? You remember the days?
Yeah, those were two well-talented teams going at it that had a little bit of history and just made the competition even more fierce. So real good basketball. Illinois had some really, really good teams.
Players. I mean, that was my second choice. I mean, I don't know if you can remember. I was like my second or third choice, right? And I didn't know if I could play there. Like, because, I'm watching the Flying Eye on TV. Like, these guys were the real dudes here. And I remember Coach Henson was like, hey, if you come here, all you need to do is kind of rebound and block shots. And I was like, okay. But then I'm looking at Iowa and I'm like, well, the big guy gets to shoot the 3-pointer and they press and 11 guys play. So, maybe I can get a chance to play over there versus just go to Illinois and block shots and rebound for the Flying Illini. So, that's how I made that decision. And rest is history.
I got to share this comment from Smooth Operator. Acie beat me in a pool game, took $50 from me a few years ago.
Okay. Hey, man, you try to win at everything. Anything you can do, you try to win.
Either you win or you don't.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we got a couple of people who I know want to call in and ask a couple of questions, but we're a little bit limited on time this evening. before the big game. So I want to get right down to it. Both of you are well connected still and are huge Hawkeye followers. And one being you, Gary, who coached so many great players, including people like Acie. But I want to share this. This picture, I don't know how many people I've shown this to. And I know Iowa posted it when the news was initially broke. But let me see if I can pull this up here. So this is you just give me your thoughts, Gary, when you see this photo.
Oh yeah, that's at Storm Lake, right?
Yeah, I've seen that photo. Yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that at Storm Lake?
It is at Storm Lake. Yep.
Yeah, that's at Storm Lake. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, I'm not asking you if you remember the young Ben McCollum, because I'm sure you don't. But when you see this picture and you would see that Ben McCollum, you know that Ben McCollum is now the head coach at Iowa. Does it just make you feel old, or what? I mean, what kind of feelings?
It definitely makes you feel old. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. That was really a fun time. Tom started that. We went up every summer to Storm Lake, stayed in the dorms, and ran a camp, and it was a huge success. I mean, big numbers of kids.
Yeah, we had I remember one time they flew me up. It was like 700, 800 kids.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And we also did one down in Muscatine. There were two camps, so we did off campus. The band day put that one on, but Storm Lake, right up at Buena Vista College, I believe it is, and
yeah, that was one of the smartest things. One of the smartest things Coach Davis did is he understood as he talked to fans that everybody couldn't drive down to Iowa and get tickets.
Right. And
so we came to them, and that was the best thing, to go to these smaller towns or places that they didn't have access. And we were rock stars there.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that why you see so much fanfare from Hawkeyes all around the state is because of that.
Were we still doing community scrimmages when you were playing?
Yeah. We did 4. I think the NCAA told us we could only do 4. Because I remember my freshman redshirt year, I think we did Waterloo. I want to say we did Storm Lake and Dubuque. And I don't know if we did Quad Cities or not. I don't know if we did Augustana, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe Rock Island. I think we played one year at Rock Island.
Yeah. Like August. I think it was Augustana, maybe. Yeah.
So I guess bottom line is what goes around comes around. And I know day of the press conference, Gary, I got a chance to chat with Ben just briefly after his presser. And I just mentioned doing the show with you and the connection with you. And his eyes lit up right away because he remembers
now you're lying, Corey.
No, I'm being serious. His eyes lit up right away.
Back on the show next year, Corey. You don't.
Yeah. He said, the only way I'm remaining the head coach is if Gary's a part of the show. But anyways, no, he really did. His eyes lit up and he talked about how he remembers you organize. Now, I don't know if he was talking about specific. It sounds like maybe Dr. Tom was behind the Storm Lake thing, but he remembers you behind a lot of those camps. So what was your involvement in those camps? Because I know he specifically brought your name up and said, Gary was a big part of this. The shoot doctor, shot doctor, right?
We ran the camp. We bring players up like Acie every day. Coach Davis came up a couple times and hung out. And but he basically was the assistants running the camp. And Jerry Strom was what they now call director of basketball operations. He did a lot of the organizing, and then we did the basketball end of it. Hung out in the dorms, played golf after the camp was over. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
All right, we want to get to a couple of people who I know want to word with, a couple of people who they have a lot of respect for and admiration for. We'll start with one of our big regulars here, basketball fan, and that's Mr. Doug. Doug, I know you have fond memories of one Acie Earl. So
basketball camp. Basketball camp. I don't know if they can see it. Hawkeye all defensive team.
This was you.
That's what they gave to anybody that didn't have a medal. That's the one we gave them.
Don't say that. That's what my dad just said.
No, I will say this. I will say this. Of all the camps, and Coach Close can attest to this, Coach Davis probably gave away at camp more medals and trophies than any camp. And I got that from him. Like I try to give as many trophies.
Huge.
It's huge for kids. So I learned that from Coach Davis. There'd be tables full of trophies.
There was.
Tables full of trophies.
Well, just
Trophy,
tell
they're
me,
going to come back.
tell me the
Right.
science behind that, Gary. What's the science behind that, other than just making
They'll come back. They've had a great time.
We all
and
won our medals.
I got to go defend my medal for the next year. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. We had all kinds of awards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what
Chamber
the
of the
biggest.
day. Hustle award of the
Hustle.
day.
Yes, Hustler of the Day award.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It was an honor. You were looked upon at camp. You won a Hustler of the Day award. You were like a star of that day going, because it was, I remember how badly I wanted it. And they always said, well, all the coaches were looking at you and, you need to hustle. And, and I went my first year, didn't get a Hustler of the Day award. Went my second year, got a Hustler of the Day award. Biggest honor I ever had.
Let's see.
And I went to state in 2 other sports.
Where's the hustle?
I can't find most of them, but
It can be.
That's usually a story they say they can't find them.
Yeah,
I have a bunch
you're
of
an ace.
track medals.
You look for them a little harder, so the next time we're on, you can.
I'll see what I can do.
Doug, you're a different kind of hustler, and based on that pool comment earlier, Acie's a totally different kind of hustler.
You got to watch out.
Anyways,
Well,
go ahead, Doug.
I was a horrible basketball player, but I was a decent track runner, and but the thing, like I said, basketball camp was just like one of the highlights of my summer every year, and I have a couple other stories, but one of the things, again, I don't like bringing up stuff about Chris Street, but I know that I just wanted to hear about you talking about Chris Street, AC. I always remember that 40 in the back of your head during the Michigan State, Michigan games. Those are 2 of the first big games I remember. That Michigan State game, I was told to go to sleep. They're down by 15. And I yelled at my mom, I ain't going to sleep. They'll still win this game. And somehow you did. And she now believes that I had some weird psychic ability. But talk about the Michigan State game and the Michigan game if you can, because those were 2 of the most amazing games. They beat the Fab Five. And you know about the Fab Five, Corey, right? I know you're young.
Warrior of the Fab Five.
But,
You might have to educate Corey on the Fab Five.
Yeah, I don't get educated on the Fab Five. Go ahead, AC. What do you remember?
Yeah,
that is a special moment, and I've seen. Thank you. Iconic stuff.
The Michigan State game, that was really pivotal for us because we were reeling emotionally and we had to kind of play on the road. And we were just kind of out of it. I think Coach could probably attest to the whole first half. We were just out of it. We missed Chris in so many ways on the press and how he moved the ball up at the top when he swung the ball on the cutters and, how we can, if they went zone, we can run our zone offense. And so we missed him in so many ways. We were just really discombobulated. And then like with, 5 or 6 minutes to go in the second half, I think me and Val, we kind of did something weird where we didn't swing the ball a couple times and we kept the ball on the strong side. And then he was able to drop it down to me to score and they didn't have a chance to double. And then me and Val just kind of morphed into it and we just said, you know what, let's just do this. So we basically play a 2-man game between me and him. And then when I was doubled, I kicked it out and he shot it. And that's kind of how we came back. And we had never played like that before because we were a heavy flex team with heavy cutters. And we basically had that 5 cutters to find something. And this was the first time we actually played where we were scoring off 1 or 2 passes. And we basically kept everybody on the weak side. We kept Kenyon and Wade and Troy and everybody else, James Winters, we kept them on the weak side. And me and Val just played strong side. And that's how we came back. And then we got it to overtime and then we just had the momentum and the rest is history.
What was your relationship like with Chris?
Oh, great. I mean, like he was easily like, if I was the Batman, he was my Robin, right? He did all the dirty work to make things easy for me. He guarded the best player, the best postman. He allowed me to roam and block shots because he would grab the rebound or he would box out. The game was easy to play with him, and he was smart. He knew the game, and he could, he basically did whatever was needed every game. He was selfless in that aspect. And so, probably one of the best teammates I ever had and best four men I ever played with, is because he allowed me to be me,
Were you too close off the court, Acie?
No, not too close. Him, James Winters, and Kenyon, and a couple other guys were probably closer, but we had that respect for each other, and we had that admiration for each other, and and we were just, we were like this on the court, where we were kind of we knew how to play off each other, and it was like I said, it was probably, if I had to pair a tandem, you probably go Michael Payne and Greg Stokes, and then it's probably me and Chris, are the two best big men to play at the same time and could allow each other to play.
Gary, it was weird as I was sitting there at the Ben McCollum presser here a couple of weeks ago, hearing him talk about his admiration for your teams, for Dr. Tom's teams, and for Chris Street. He was just an avid Chris Street guy. It was just odd. Not in a bad way. It was just like, this guy's the next head coach at Iowa, and he seems to be the perfect hire. He appeared at the time, and you can debate. I know there's a lot of debate going back and forth between Darian DeVries, who had the Iowa ties, and Ben McCollum. DeVries ends up at Indiana. Iowa lands their guy McCollum, who did a phenomenal job in 1 year at Drake, bringing, hodgepodging a bunch of pieces together and creating a dominant Missouri Valley Conference team. So I want to ask you, Gary, about this hire. I'm sure you think it's a slam dunk hire. Everybody says this guy's just a basketball savant. It doesn't sound like Ben personally, but just your early thoughts here a few weeks into the Ben McCollum era.
Yeah, I think it's terrific. I really appreciate his appreciation of the history of Iowa basketball. There's a lot of storied history, and he's aware of it and embraces it, and I really like that. And I think the fans will love that, because they're diehard Hawkeye fans that appreciate that. To win 31 games at any level, I don't care what it is.
And the Valley's a tough I think the Valley is very appreciated, but the Valley's tough. But like you said, Coach, to win 30 games anywhere and to do it with 4 D2 guys, is a great feat. Yeah.
I talked to Zach Morley, played for us at Wisconsin. He knows Ben pretty well. They're from the same, his hometown is where the D2 school is located. And Zach's got nothing but great things to say about him as a person and as a coach. And he was thrilled to see him get that position. And I think he'll do a great job. He's got his work cut out for him, obviously, but I think it's a real good hire.
Acie, sounds like maybe you feel the same way. Slam dunk hire.
Yeah, I think that's. I think it fits. It checks all the boxes, as they say. So yeah.
And we were talking before you two hopped on here, Gary, that you expect with any coaching change, especially the guy who's been here 15 years. Not that has any real impact on the guys that decided to leave that could have returned. But you lose Freeman, you lose Harding, you lose Dix. You were going to lose Peyton already. You lose Price to Nebraska. You lost a guy in Mulvey who played some, Bronze who played some. Then you lose Traore to the portal. So you basically lose everybody. We don't yet know. We haven't heard anything official on Carter Kingsbury. So I would expect that he is going to be retained. I'm sure you would love to see him stick it out for one more year, given the history there. But yeah, you bring in 5 guys over right now from Drake. And I know there's some concern from the outside looking in that they haven't gotten anyone else besides the guys from Drake. Bennett Sturts is phenomenal. Anybody missed watching him in the tournament? He's one of the best players at his position, I think, in the country. And we'll see how he can do on a night in, night out basis at this level. But what's the challenge before Ben McCollum, Gary, in this era with NIL and the portal, trying to build a feasible Big Ten roster for this coming season in year one?
Well, getting talent. You got to have talent. Coaching can get you so far, and it's as good as the Missouri Valley Conference is, and it's a great conference. It's another significant step up to play in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten had a fairly successful NCAA tournament. So to be able to go in and get Division I talented players, and obviously the whole portal situation, does he have enough in his budget to be able to attract people if it comes down to that? But I think, like anything, it's going to be his ability to recruit and get talent, because you can only coach so far in the Big Ten. You got to have some players. You're just not going to out coach people night in and night out with average players. So, but I think it's a nice start, because it'll help him get his system in a little quicker, where he's got 5 guys that know it and 5 guys that can help the other players pick it up once he secures some more players. And it's still relatively early in the portal, so it would have been nice to have a couple of those guys come back. But hey, you move on and beat the bushes, and he did a phenomenal job of putting that Drake team together, and so he's done that before. It's not like hasn't had to put a team together before. So just got to be a little patient, I think.
Is it a fair or unfair comparison to look at the jump he made from Northwest Missouri State to Drake, winning in year 1 with pieces from all over the place, with him doing that from Drake to Iowa? Is that an unfair comparison?
I think it's going to be more difficult.
Okay.
I mean, that's the respect I have for the league. I think it's a challenge. He's got to get some talent. I mean, I think he's going to be able to win some games with his coaching. It sounds like an outstanding coach in terms of giving his team the best chance to win. I mean, that's the first thing you want to do as a coach, is give your team a chance to win. A lot of games, when it gets down to the end, are already over, and you have no chance. And he's done a good job of keeping his teams in the game, with a style of play. And but if you're gonna beat the elite teams in this league, you got to get some players.
Acie, I want to throw you this next one, because I think one of the big building block pieces that he is bringing back is Cooper Koch, because you're losing a lot of people, but Cooper's got a tremendous upside. He's got an opportunity to get that 4th year back. So he's gonna have a full 4 in front of him potentially if he can get that medical hardship waiver from the NCAA. Who knows what type of a jump he goes from year 1 to year 2. He's hurt much of last year, but post position, they bring in Cam Manyow from Drake. You get Cooper Koch back, and then after that, it's you've got some guys who are kind of in between type guys like Isaiah Howard, and they got this Cale Combs kid who's played some. What are your biggest concerns right now, Acie?
Well, I think the biggest thing is almost everybody's in the same boat. I mean, I have a bunch of college friends, and we talk, got college guys who coaches, and pretty much every school is in the same boat. So it's almost like everybody's starting in the same position. The only thing that I think that hurts some schools is like schools who went longer in the tournament, they can't recruit in the portal or out of the portal because they're playing in the tournament, right? And so what I'd like to see what the NCAA do at some point is to mandate that day where everybody starts equally, so everybody has a fair shot, instead of guys can go and get in the portal early, and then you don't have to worry about the tournament or playing in the Crown or playing in the NIT or playing in the CBI. And so I think I don't put a lot of stock in teams and everybody saying, well, we only got 8 players now, or it's a lot of time to be left, right? And budgets aren't set yet. There's still money going to come in. Guys are going to go to some place and not get the money that they're supposed to get and jump back in the portal. So I don't think it's all or nothing now. I think there's a lot of teams in the same. I mean, there's teams worse than Iowa. I mean, I heard the other day Indiana doesn't have anybody coming back. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
It's
or
kind
not.
of par for the course. I think a lot of teams in the Big Ten are like that. Maryland's going to lose everybody.
Right. So I mean, if you say you got 8 guys now, 4 from Drake and 4 or 5 from Iowa, you're probably better than almost half the Big Ten at this point, which is so. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's the Wild Wild West, right? It's like the Oregon Trail, right? This is you get on the horse and hope you get there, but it's not going to be an easy journey for anybody.
Yeah, certainly not. And one thing about Ben McCollum, I think it's fair to say he has been able to maximize talent
Yeah.
to this point. Now, Gary, like you said, hasn't done it at the Big Ten level. You watched Bennett Sturts in the tournament, and I don't know how much you watched him in the regular season, but how does his game translate to this level?
You know, I haven't seen him a lot. I've heard a lot of great things about him. The thing that I saw, the little that I watched him, he's just a gamer. I mean, he loves the moment. He's not afraid of the moment. He makes great decisions. He wants the ball in his hands. Some guys don't want that. You know, they're going to hang out in the corner and maybe do a little rebounding. Acie wanted the ball. Some guys don't. He looks like a guy with a lot of confidence that knows how to play the game and likes pressure situations and wants that responsibility. That's really important at a point guard.
I got 3 words for you, Coach. YouTube TV.
There you go.
I got YouTube TV and another TV this year, and so I can watch 4 games at one time with the split screen.
I better do that.
I'm in hog heaven, so I got to see a lot of Valley this year. So I did see him play. Yeah, he can play. I mean, as you just said, he's a gamer, and like I said, that Valley's a tough conference. Like Bradley, UNI.
Yep.
Yeah, some of those teams are tough as nails, man. Yeah,
it's a good league. Always been a good league.
Yeah.
Belmont's been a really good league or good program since they joined the league here a couple years ago. I think that will. I think some of your comments, Acie, will maybe quell some of the fears that fans have. You know, a lot of people that Iowa's made contact with, and you have to have a lot of at bats, right? You just kind of have to nowadays. Gary, there was a kid from Portland, Austin Rapp, who was a 7-footer that had Iowa in his top 5. He just committed to Wisconsin. There was a big from Lipscomb who was, I think, 6'10", 6'11", great 3-point shooter. He just committed to Washington. So, you know, that's frustrating. I think my next question to you, Gary, is if there was one player from this past roster, besides Cooper Koch, who they were able to bring back, that you would have loved to have kept, would it have been Josh Dix or would it have been someone else?
I think the two that jump out to you are Josh and Owen. I really like Josh. I think he's just coming into his own. I think he's a really talented player, and you know, Acie will tell you, big guys develop at all different kinds of rates, and Owen has a chance to be a really good player too. And obviously, losing him was almost a death sentence for the basketball team this year. He's just too good to lose. So, and I think the other thing is I wouldn't get wrapped up in all the ratings of transfer portal. Wisconsin's a good example. The John Tanji kid last year was not rated very high, and all he was a first-team All-American, and basically saved their season and to some extent. So, I think Ben's got a good chance, good value where town. He might be able to pick some people up that other people don't think are very good that he likes and things can win with. So I think like I said, I think we got to be patient.
Then you have
I think the other part of this, not to cut you off, the other part of this is it's kind of like what I call the new gold mine is like D2.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's all these guys that are in D2 that we see in the tournament that nobody ever heard of.
Auburn, the Brome kid.
Yeah. So it's like, everybody kind of needs to just kind of take a step back a little bit, because there's a lot of players. Like, nobody's even talking about D2. I mean, that's probably where we should start, Coach, a D2 scouting.
There you go.
A D2 website on D2 players.
Real quick, if there's anybody that knows where to find the best D2 players, wouldn't it be Ben McCollum?
You think so? Yeah.
I would think he'd have connections everywhere in D2. So
who would have thought that he would have gone from a D2 school to a league like Missouri Valley and won 31 games? I mean, there's no way that's happening.
In the first year.
So.
Yeah.
And it's not like he brought everybody over from. I mean, he got a couple of kids.
Yeah,
I believe it was Jeff Linder's team.
I believe it was
Wyoming.
4. I'm not certain, but I think it was 4.
4 from Northwest Missouri. Yeah, and he brought a couple from Wyoming. So that's kind of piecemealing a roster together, and that's sort of what you're having to do here. Now,
do it again. Yep.
It's a different curve.
Yeah.
But Josh Sash, that's an interesting name for Hawkeye football fans. He's going to be part of the
Sure.
staff, really successful at Indian Hills. What do you guys know about Indian Hills Community College? They've been pretty dominant force at that level for quite some time. Acie, what can you say about?
Oh, like I said before, like those guys were coming up to play against us, like in the field house and in prime time. So, and we recruited, didn't we? We recruited some kid, didn't we?
Yeah, I think John Carter was from
John Carter.
Indian Hills.
Wasn't Shelley Clark? We recruited Shelley
Yeah,
Clark.
I think you're right there.
The big guy, bro, the big 7-foot guy went to Hawaii. Baroni.
Oh yeah,
Baroni, right?
Maloney. Yeah.
Baroni. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then I think Kenyon, like didn't Kenyon coach down there for a couple of years?
I think he did. He did.
So yeah, and between the other one was Southeast, right?
Southeast. Yep.
So those are two great JUCO that a lot of players were stashed, and Iowa was one of those JUCO states where a lot of teams stashed players to kind of get them ready, get them eligible, get their credits up, and then they went to the Big Ten or went D1. So, me and Coach are way familiar with those two schools.
D. Rollifson, we appreciate the super chat. Can we have an Indiana football type of year with the Drake kids? I said it earlier. It's a lot easier to do it in basketball than it is in football, right? Just because of the physicality of the sport. There's a bigger curve physically in football from D2 to FCS to FBS. I mean, you guys are basketball guys, but is that fair to say that these turnarounds do happen quicker typically in basketball?
I'd say that's probably true.
So isn't it more feasible that Iowa could have? I mean, it's amazing what Indiana did in year one.
Yeah, I mean, like we saw that with Colorado football, Deion's first year when he brought all those FCS guys, and hey, the Pac-12 guys hit a little bit harder than FCS. So obviously it's a jump, it's a learning curve, and everybody's aware of that. Staffs are aware of that, and the weight trainer, the players are aware of that. I mean, it's the same thing. So it'll be interesting to see either way.
Tony has two questions for Acie. He says, what's the difference between pro and college from a lifestyle standpoint? And then memories from the farewell tour.
I think like when you're in college, and we see this a lot, like a great example to me is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who were very good college players. But if you would have had to say, where they have the trajectory that they have in the pros that they had in college, I don't think you would agree with that. And part of the reason why is because when you're in college, we got 80 million things to do, right? We got to go to class. We got to go to study table. People tell us when to eat. We have, our travel schedule, our weight, everything is pretty much stacked, right? And you don't have a lot of time for development, personal development. When you go to the pros, all you have to do is go to practice and you're done, right? There's no school, there's no study table, there's none of all the other stuff. And those guys can develop and take your time and develop your game. And I think we've seen that with a lot of Iowa players that went on to college. One, because, our program did have structure. So when we went off to the NBA, we could budget our time and we could do the things that we needed to do instead of just have 5 and 6 hours out of the day where you're unaccounted for. So I think that's the biggest thing is the time constraints. And then I'd say back on the farewell tour, that was one of the things that Coach Davis helped engineer to make sure, because back then we couldn't make any money, and we went to all these cities and we were able to make a little change before we left, and to go to those cities that nobody ever could come to the game. I mean, I could count on 5 hands how many times somebody said we never got to see you play live, right? And that was huge for a lot of people, for us to come to those small towns. And so I tell people all the time, there's not a city in Iowa I don't know or never heard of, because we were there, man. Randy Larson had us in a van, and we were there, man. Sometimes we played 3 or 4 games a day, and that was a great time. So, shout out to kudos for Coach Davis and everybody putting that to staff, because I knew a lot of guys in college, they did not have farewell tours like us, right? A lot of schools did not. I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys I played in the NBA with, and I know Michigan didn't. I know that. You know, but they made the money beforehand, so they didn't have to make the money.
So Tim Ross brings up Reggie Evans, Indian Hills.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know he was there, Gary.
Well, that's past my time, but now he was a big time player.
Branglo over here says, I'm late to the show. Is that Acie Earl greatest shot blocker to wear the black and gold? And that leads me into this next question. Tim wants to know, is timing still everything when teaching today's kids how to block shots without fouling? I'll say that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the shot at the guy in the middle here, Acie, because Gary has over and over again downplayed shot blocking. He says it's overrated. Guys get off their feet. They fall for shot fakes. They come down, they foul. Or you block a shot and the guy gets the ball back and puts it back in. So you tell us, you're a great shot blocker in Iowa lore. Is shot blocking overrated? Tell Coach.
Well, it's a couple things. One, I was fortunate. Like my dad taught me the art of shot blocking. He taught me about timing. He taught me how refs think. He taught me not to swat down. He taught me to keep the ball in play. And I was able to watch some of the greatest shot blockers in college. Keem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Ralph Sampson, you know, where as a kid, I could see these guys and my dad would say, hey, look and see. Now then, when I went to Iowa, Coach Davis liked that because of the press. And so we could press very aggressively because I was going to block the shot more times than not. So we could gamble more and we could speed them up. So, Coach, I know you should take credit for my shot blocking there. You used to tell those guys, go ahead, press. Ace is back there. Ace is back there. Now, the only time, and Coach, I want to get after Corey gets your point, I want to get your point on this. You know, the only school that haunts me in the shot blocking and our press is one school, is Duke, right? Now, Corey, my first year we played Duke in Minnesota, I had 8 blocks. Set a tournament record at the time. Then the second year we played them in Winston-Salem, I had 9 blocks. Now, I told Coach Davis and Pearl, we can't press them. I said, they're too good. They have too many finishers. I'll foul out. And obviously, they didn't listen. But, Coach, when you got time, expound on, was that a talk? Because I wanted to go 45 and let them play against and see what they can do half court.
Yeah.
Was there any talk from year to year? And we did the same thing my senior year. But we didn't. You know, last game Chris played. They beat us at Duke again, but we pressed them all 3 years, and I didn't want to do that because they were too good. Even though I blocked so many shots. So, Coach, was there any talk that we should not press them?
First thing I want to say is Acie was really unique in terms of shot blocking. He rarely got into foul trouble. And
only fouled out of 2 games in my college career.
There you go. You don't see shot blockers now, and he deserves credit for it. You don't see the discipline. And so a lot of them get into foul trouble and get into foul trouble quickly. Or Acie, he talks about timing. He wasn't when he went to block a shot. More than often he got it. Whereas you see a lot of players, they're just flying around trying to block everything, and half the time they don't get it, and that's when their guy gets open and puts the ball back in the basket. And so the ability to know when you can get it, when not to foul, that's a lot of coaching and a lot of discipline on the player, and he was really good at it. So as a coach, when you see something like that, you go, I got to take advantage of that. And that's why we took advantage of him, because he was good at that, and didn't get into foul trouble and wasn't undisciplined in terms of breaking the defense down, and so it made it very effective. And then the other thing is, he talked about with the pressure defense, you're going to give up, some transition opportunities. That's just the way it is, and to have somebody back there that they got to think about, rather than just flying in there and finishing a play makes the defense, that much more effective. As far as the Duke game goes, I remember a little bit about that. I think, Tom was always a big believer in being aggressive, trying to take it to him, and then looking for spurts that can change the game around. And I don't think in any of those games, I'd have to go back and look at them, I don't think we lost because of our pressure defense. In fact, at Duke, I think it got us back into the game and dang near. I remember Bobby Hurley saying after that game that I don't ever want to play that team again. I mean, they're just a pain to play, getting the ball in bounds and blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of, you're kind of playing with your psychic and things like that. So I think, that both those teams went on to win it, right?
Yeah. So we lost back to back, right? We lost back to back both times, right?
Yeah. You talk about NBA players; they had a few on their team too. So, but when I was growing up, I think I've told Acie this before, but I'll say it again. One of my idol basketball player growing up, I grew up in the Philadelphia area, was Will Chamberlain, and he was a phenomenal shot blocker. So I always loved shot blockers, loved them. And that's why. And then getting to Wisconsin, that changed a little bit what our defensive philosophy was. And we never really had a shot blocker. And I'm guessing if we did, that might have changed it a little bit. But I think his ability to stay disciplined and not break the defense down was huge.
Real quick, last question. Then we got two quick callers before we log off here. Acie, I know I'm sure you followed Owen Freeman from year 1 to year 2. Did he make the type of jump from year 1 to year 2 that you expected him to make?
Yeah, I mean, I followed him, and I don't know if you are privy to information. He attended my high school in Moline. So I followed him a little bit before he got to Iowa because him and Brock won the state championship. They only lost one game, I believe, in the season, two games. So I was following him pretty early on. And I could see some things in his game. Like he was kind of ambidextrous. He would block shots. He'd run the floor. He had a nice touch around the basket. I think the thing that hurt him sometimes is what Gary was saying earlier. He had some bad fouls. He had some bad where he went for a shot block that he was out of position or something like that, or he hacked down or things of that nature. But yeah, I think he made a significant jump. I was excited because he did break my freshman record of single season. So I was like, hey, this kid could be, break all my records, and it'd be cool to have 2 kids from Moline do it. So I was kind of bummed that he left, but yeah.
He's filling in some big shoes with Ryan Kalkbrenner at Creighton, who's been just an unbelievable big for the Blue Jays. So
yeah,
and I just saw they got a big European big, I think part of either the 25 or 26 class today. So
yeah. So Gary, you would love this. Gary, you remember Mike Saunders, the running back at Iowa?
Oh yeah.
So I coached his daughter in AAU. Kalkbrenner and Mike's daughter Rachel are engaged.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So
you told me that.
Yeah, so I see Rachel's mom at Fairway, and she goes, all the people used to ask her, she said, hey, is Rachel intimidated by having a 7'2" boyfriend? And she said, no, his AAU coach was 6'11".
That's great.
Yeah,
did she go to Drake?
Yeah, no, she went to Creighton.
She played at Creighton as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's the same age as my son, Sam.
Oh, okay.
So they were actually real best friends at a real young age.
Okay. So yeah, I started Rachel off, so nobody would take her, and then Mike called me and said, "Hey man, will you take her?" I said, "Yeah, it's all good, Mike." So yeah, I started Rachel off in 5th grade.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, folks. So we're going to wrap this up here. So let's add our final 2 callers in here. Mr. Corey, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. What you got for Acie and Coach?
You're letting me relive my childhood. This is absolutely amazing. I got to ask Acie, because I tell the story, and I don't know how accurate it is. how many consecutive shots did you block in a row? What's the maximum? And then what's the maximum number of offensive rebounds you got in a row? I tell the story that it might have been 5 on the offensive rebounds and a 3 on the block shots. But it was just amazing.
I would concur. I would concur.
It,
I would have had more offensive rebounds, but coach will tell you tips don't go. So, so I had to come down with it and pump fake. So I would have had more, but yeah.
There you go.
So which was your favorite game between, I call them the Chris Street games. Which was your favorite game? The Michigan game at home or the Michigan State game away? I know that, well, I sat and watched in disbelief when you guys came back and beat Michigan State, and I was bawling my eyes out, and I had no one to share the moment with. Everybody was asleep. But what's your favorite between those two games?
Thanks, Corey.
Not a favorite, because if we don't win the Michigan State game, we don't win the Michigan game 100%. In the Michigan game, we won in front of Chris's parents and family. So that was huge. Like, it was like a must win. And it was funny, you know, I know Jimmy King very well. I played with Jimmy in Toronto, and I know Chris a little bit, and Juwan and Jalen. The look on their faces, like they knew
They're in trouble.
that they were not going to win this game. Like, if you go back and look at the game, like they had a look of disbelief, like, you know, and as a player and a coach, and coach will know this, when you see that on another player, it's like, okay, like we got them, right? And so, like, I would say those games are pretty much equal. You know, like we had to win for Chris's family, and in order to get back on track, because if we don't win Michigan State, I think we go down. I don't think we come back and make the tournament if we don't beat Michigan State. And you know, the bummer nobody ever talks about is the Andy Kaufman half-court shot.
Oh, I know.
Illinois, we would have won 3 in a row. If we would have won that game, Coach, I think we would get, like, what seed did we get? A 7 seed or 6 seed?
Something like that, yeah.
If we win that game, I think we get a 5 seed.
Yeah, that was a prayer that was answered.
Oh, that was probably the biggest deflator.
That was at Illinois.
At Illinois, I know. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
That.
Oh, yeah. I was in front row, Gary. Final caller of the night. We got James here. James.
I'm going to be real quick. First off, Acie, I'm younger, so I never got the opportunity to see you play, but my dad has told me a lot of stories, so I can only imagine about the whole thing, if that makes sense. But from one basketball coach to another, because I fell in love with it. I'm not as talented, obviously, as most people on here, but I fell in love with the game, obviously, and started coaching basketball, and now I'm coaching at the high school level. But one thing I want to say about shot blocking, since you were talking about it, Corey, is we had this kid who never played basketball one day in his life, right? Like, his family was all wrestling, but he had a medical issue where he couldn't wrestle. So he had to play basketball. Never played basketball a day in his life. Ended up breaking the school record in rebounding, shots blocked in a game, shots blocked in a season. So it's like sometimes you just never know, right? Some people are just naturally good at rebounding and blocking shots sometimes, and you just never naturally know about it. You know what I mean? Like
that was Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon was that way. He didn't play basketball till he got to college.
Yeah.
Did you say the same thing about Georgetown, Dikembe Mutombo? Wasn't he also late 80s?
I'm not comparing to him. I'm just saying, like, you never know with some people who like they never play or something. They could just have the natural talent to be able to jump or being more athletic than people sometimes. So it naturally works that way, where you can block shots or get rebounds because you're just naturally more athletic than people.
I agree. That's a great story. I agree.
But no, I just want to say it's cool to have you on, and obviously it's always cool to carry on the legacy of Iowa and just everything that goes on. And you know, like I said, I never got to see you play, but I always support any Hawkeye that played in the past, even though I didn't get to know them, you know, because they carry on the state or the legacy of the state. You know, they always carry on the name of the state in Iowa, and that's what's more important to me. So,
well, thank you
James,
for being a fan.
Appreciate your call, sir. Thank you for being here, as always. Well, Acie, we'll have to do this again sometime. I know we got national championship game here starting in just minutes, so this was fun, Gary. It's good to get you two back together, and
good to see you, Ace.
Yes, sir.
always good to get a perspective from a big guy too. And
No
I
doubt.
was, by the way, I was on the prowl for some big men, AC. So when you see one in the portal,
He
you,
might have a year of eligibility left.
Oh yeah, hey, if I did, I would definitely cash in and hit that portal. So,
I was gonna say
What
he would
could
be
you
an
go
Iowa.
to the portal, Ace?
Oh man, if only you could turn back the clock. But
yeah.
all right, folks. For Acie Earl, Coach Gary Close, I'm Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Enjoy the game tonight, and we will talk to you soon.